Hi, and welcome back to How to Uncover and Overcome Self-Sabotage. And I'm Andrea, and I'm from Dominant Mindset Coaching. I used to be a dominatrix for about 12 years, and now I'm a confidence coach. And I love to talk about self-sabotage because it is the one thing that comes in and undoes all of my good work. So getting our eyes on these things is really the key to being able to tackle them. And I'm so excited for this episode. And this is Yannick.
Hi, I'm Yannick. I'm known as the Naked Coach on social media. I'm a confidence and mindset coach, and I'm fascinated with self-sabotage. Why do we do it? How do we notice it? And just as important, how do we overcome it?
Amazing. And what are we going to be speaking about today, Yannick?
This week, I thought that we'd get into the hyper-rational.
Okay, cool. So I think hyper-rational was quite far down on my list. So what is a hyper-rational saboteur?
So the hyper-rational is sort of like the left brain analytical, but sort of like on steroids. So it's an intense and exclusive focus on the rational processing of everything, which also includes relationships. And in people who have a strong hyper-rational, they often get perceived as cold, distant, and in some cases, intellectually arrogant. So I have a strong hyper-rational because in my head, that sort of like you can't fight against logic. And so, but I have often gotten the feedback, the comments from people as I got to know them, that when they first met me, they thought, like, they did perceive me as being distant and or cold.
Okay. Interesting. And what does intellectually arrogant actually mean?
So I think intellectually arrogant, what they're basically saying is that it's people that know that they're smart, and it's sort of like there's like, you know that you're smart, but then you sort of like brag and you're cocky about knowing that, and it might cases put people or other people down. So I think that's where they're going with that statement about being intellectually arrogant.
So not just I'm smart, but I'm smarter than you.
Yeah, and exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Awesome. Okay, so what else makes up the hyper-rational?
So here's the interesting part, and I know that we've covered this with some of the other saboteurs, so I thought that we'd continue and include this in our future videos as well. So the hyper-rational basically is a strength that's been put onto steroids. So here is the original strength, capable of deep insight and understanding through objective analysis. On its own, that's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. Is somebody who can be very observant and perceptive, somebody who's got great mental concentration, somebody who basically has a drive in a specific area of knowledge. So again, like, taken on their own, they're all great things. It's just that they somehow, through like life situation and circumstances, got activated, and it's almost like they were sort of like they just basically grew significantly in importance, and that's how they became sort of like dominant for certain individuals.
Okay, that's cool. And how would you, if you hadn't done this assessment, how would you know that you're hyper-rational? What's some of the thoughts that you might have?
So some of the thoughts that you might have is that your feelings, or feelings in general, are distracting and or irrelevant. Many people are irrational and sloppy. Sorry, many people that are irrational are sloppy in their thinking. The needs and emotions of others will act as a distraction for me, and that the value that, like, what I value the most is knowledge and understanding, as well as insight. And so oftentimes the individual's self-worth will be attached in mastering a certain aspect, or like a certain, like, for example, like history or philosophy, or like for like something that can be set into sort of like a segment. So mastering knowledge, competence in various aspects of their lives.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I mean, the hyper rational was kind of far down on mine. So but some of it is definitely resonating, and that kind of that need to understand things, and I can often end up, just really going down rabbit holes with things, and my need to know why and what, and that does it make sense, and that kind of thing. So although it's not a strong saboteur, I can it definitely resonates with me. If I'm coaching someone on something, then, and I'm maybe using a coaching exercise, I need to know before I use it or before I trust it, what it's doing and why I'm doing it, and what is the outcome of that. And then from there, I can put arms and legs on it and make it even better, or even more kind of in depth or full. But as long as I know why I'm doing it and what's my intended outcome, and I can then understand it, then I'm more confident in using it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of the examples that you gave are also typical to the hyperachiever, which I know scored fairly high on your results. So
yeah, and so how much crossover is there between hyperachiever and hyper-rational? Like how closely related are they?
It's not necessarily that they're closely related. It's just that some of the examples that you were sharing were more attributed to one versus the hyperachiever versus the hyper rational. That's
okay.
all.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's me just trying to understand it.
Yeah.
So maybe my hyper-rational is higher than I thought.
That's perfectly fine. So I'm just going to go into one of the justification that the hyper rational will whisper in, or might whisper in your ear, which is the rational mind is the most important thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So the rational mind is the most important thing, and oftentimes people who are hyper rational are just basically one of their main complaints will be that others who aren't also hyper rational are way too emotional.
Okay. Yeah.
Because for them, like feelings, emotions kind of like distract from what's important to them.
Yeah. I guess, would that make a hyper rational person better or worse in a crisis situation?
Better or worse? Actually, that's a great question. And like to come of it like just like that, I would think that there are probably circumstances in which might be better, but I wouldn't say necessarily like all the time, because if you put somebody like a hyper rational mind in a crisis situation, might basically deal with it very, very cleanly, very surgically, which is, you wouldn't want to put a hyper rational like in a setting where you need empathy.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So
if someone's needing comforted, you probably don't want the hyper rational. You want them sorting out the practical carnage. Whereas, you maybe want like a strong empath and helping to get their arms around people. So yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, and so I just want to touch the original survival function of the hyperrational. So the hyperrational is a good survival strategy in early childhood where there's been emotional turmoil or chaotic surroundings. The escape into what is considered to be neat and orderly generates a sense of security.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to look out for with clients, and how, because I guess with our coaching, sometimes we try to allow our clients space to just mess up, which might be hell for someone who is a hyper rational. need that order, they need that, and that's maybe why I don't really cope with the messy versus right distinction so well, because as much as I like the openness to be able to explore and get curious and mess things up, at the end of the day, I do need some organization. I do need some order. Otherwise, life feels unstable for me.
Right.
And so yeah, that's interesting.
There's one thing that I want to add to that, though. There's
Yeah.
no reason we can't sort of like have both. It's just that like having a very, very strong hyper rational might basically mean that like that you doing sort of like the explore, like the sage power of explore might be a little bit more challenging for you.
Okay, yeah. And I guess it's finding that balance, isn't it, between being quite logical and clean and organized versus allowing yourself the space to mess up if we need to, and get curious about things, because undiscovered things don't really have an order yet until we start to ascribe order and meaning and everything to it. So yeah, that's really interesting. I'm excited to talk about this more on Friday,
Yes.
and to really get into this, because maybe I'm more of a hyper rational than I actually think I am. So yeah, it'll be an interesting chat on Friday, I'm sure. So is there anything more that we need to add to this, or will I just let everybody know?
We'll have some more stuff that we can share on our conversation on Friday.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So on Friday, we have a Q&A chat on Clubhouse. If you don't have a Clubhouse account, let one of us know and we will get you an invite so that you can join. The Q&A chat is done in real time, so you can come with your questions or, your yeah, but what ifs, and you can speak to either of us. We'll both be on there. The Clubhouse chat, so on a Friday night in UK time, it's 7 p.m. Eastern and Pacific time. I need Yannick to help me out here.
So for North America time, so Eastern time is 2 p.m. Eastern, North America time, and North America Pacific time is 11 a.m. on Fridays. So again, it's 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Eastern North America time, and 11 a.m. Pacific North America time. Perfect.
And if you want extra support, you can join our Facebook group, which is just how to uncover and overcome self-sabotage. That's what it's named. If you search for it, it's right there. You'll see a nice big picture of Yannick and I. So come and join us on the Facebook group. We will be putting extra coaching exercises, and all of the videos will also be up there too. And finally, just like and subscribe to these videos so that you don't miss any, and also so that you don't end up with a backlog of videos to watch. And please complete the free assessment so that this makes a bit more sense and you know which ones to focus on and which ones to that you can put maybe further down the priority list. But yeah, so is there anything else that we need to share?
All the links are going to be in the description.
Oh, perfect. Right, good. Amazing. Another amazing chat. So we will see you all.